most of the wines in the world, or even whiskeys a lot of times, are drunk young. ऐसा नहीं है कि पुरानी है तो अच्छी होगी. Everything doesn't age well, to be very honest. So passion सब उड़ जाता है if the business is not running, if the numbers are not coming. And I think again one of the strongest thing of coming back and hitting back was the strength by the Tatas as well as a group. This happened in 26/11, right? 21st of December, the hotel reopened. Under a month, the hotel reopened with a big bang.
Hello and welcome to the show. The Hospitable Couch के इस episode पर we have gathered the courage to have with us Mr. Ankur Chawla. To introduce him would be taking me too long because he's a sommelier, he's an entrepreneur, he's an author, and to connect with me and the common interest that connects us is he is an hotelier. Like, of course, I will not excel that much, but he is somebody who has established himself so well that every hotelier vouch for his journey. आज इनकी लाइफ डिस्कस करेंगे अपने शो पर जो इनकी बायोग्राफी है. Though the life is so charming and luxurious, alongside it has some very dark notes. Touching upon that, we start the show welcoming Mr. Ankur Chawla.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. It is a beautiful introduction that you gave. Thank you very much for that. And pleasure to be on the Hospitable Couch. I love the name. Glad to be.
You make me feel graceful.
Thank you.
So as the show is about hospitality, your journey, and about what you have created, so a little bit about yourself when you started in the schooling time, because that time I believe is a very sensitive time, because उस time पे जो हमारे inclinations होते हैं interest के, that keeps on changing. Fast forwarding that time to class 11th or 12th where we are supposed to make a choice of a professional career. What was your choice in your case?
Okay, to begin with, let me put the disclaimer very clear. I was never a very studious one. I was always a average, above average sort of student, and I was very happy with that. There was no, this thing, high aspirations to be the 95, 97% sort of guy. मेरा interest theaters में, I used to play a lot of instruments, skin instruments. So उस चीज में cultural activities में काफी ज़्यादा था starting से. Perfect. We should jam sometime.
Of course.
But so वहाँ पे काफी ज़्यादा interest था. And I think that kind of defines you as well after a point of time when you go and meet the world and you are sort of speaking with a confidence and stuff. I think उस time नहीं realize होता है कि आप stage पे जब जा रहे हो, आप हजारों के सामने perform कर रहे हो. But it gives you a good amount of confidence. So I was very thankful to God that I was in the right space, and my parents were very supportive. कि जो करना है करो, बस पास होते रहना. So that is how the journey was in the school times. I think 11th and 12th I started doing a lot of professional theaters as well, but never really thought कि आगे जाके क्या करना है, because theater was a big part of my life at that point of time, and studies was not as much. I was more inclined towards being an actor or trying to get into the mass communications of the world and stuff. 12th के बाद वही किया था. I think I just gave 2 entrance exams. One was mass communication, and actually hotel management, like a lot of others, was a backup plan. उस time तो Commonwealth का बहुत ज़्यादा there was a lot of craze. So that is the reason it happened. And I had my mentor, Mr. Jitin Chawla. He was the one who actually guided me over the period of time. And today also, I think I have just very few mentors. अभी भी अगर मैं कोई call लेता तो we are very much in touch. I'm still very much the kid that I was, and he's still very much these people are still very much the people who used to guide me right or wrong. And I think that is very important. So yeah, that was my schooling. Then eventually, finally, got into hotel school. So I did my hotel school from IHM Kufri, Shimla. But post time baby, I was very much inclined to a lot of other things. So I used to do a lot of career counseling workshops with Jitin sir. I used to do a lot of career fairs. Outdoor catering hoti thi us time pe काफी ज़्यादा. ODCs, as we know, in famous college schools. So there was a point of time we had about 70-80 people also doing ODCs under us after second year, third year. Shimla में we used to do a lot of ODCs, ऊपर से नीचे तक. Delhi, I've done a lot of outdoor caterings as well. So yeah, active life, busy life is what I usually love.
When you engaged with the hotels earlier than your hotel management days?
So, कुफरी के पास ना एक मशहूरा में एक होटल है, वाइल्डफ्लावर हॉल. It's a beautiful hotel, So during the Christmas and the New Year times, they were always short of staff, and obviously they wanted the busy season to be catered. So I started working, part-time jobs from, I think 11th standards. I started working on part-time jobs, and God was very kind with regards to, there was no financial, this thing burden or responsibility. But I think I loved doing it, being engaged with a lot of things, and I think I was enjoying it. So 11th ke baad hi I was always interested, and hotel management ke andar pe I worked very closely with the Lalit hotels, which used to be Intercontinental during my training days. I worked very closely with outdoor caterings in different hotels. While for all, as I said, I did a lot of work with. So अभी भी याद है वो दोपहर को उनका कॉल आ जाता था, यार शाम को बिजी है आ जाओ. And it's like चलो. It was fun.
When you entered the IHM, so IHM, like I have been through that college phase also. The way we look at the college, the way we look at the industry, it is slightly composite to that culture, the sort of thing that we look at.
Sure.
So how did you inherit that quality of being a hotelier? Because I believe कि कुछ जैसे होता है कि आपने कुछ सोचा होगा कि ऐसे होगा, लेकिन वो वैसा नहीं था
जी.
It was much more of a physical effort.
Sure.
A lot more you need to train your mind.
Sure.
To train yourself better in that area. So something on that.
It's a very valid question, and I strongly feel कि ऐसा कभी भी नहीं होता है. At least hospitality में तो नहीं होता है. That is the reason we see a big amount of attrition in the hospitality, particularly in the first 2-3 years of joining, because it's a culture shock. Honestly, I feel it is reducing, but the gap between the studies in the college versus the actual experience in the hotel is huge. In fact, I had done a project on that as well during my management trainee days, bridging the gap between hotel school and hotels. But yeah, it's a big culture shock. I particularly feel that if you're not enjoying it, you should get out. But give it some time, because there will be a lot of times when you're starting, it's a lot of hard work. Because होता है कि कॉलेज से निकलने के बाद ना आपको अपने दोस्त यार दिखते हैं पार्टी करते हुए, like we were discussing PPOs and stuff, और corporate jobs जहाँ पे Saturday Sunday off होता है.
Force here. If we compare
both, you have less amount of money and more hard work compared to other industries at the beginning of your career, at least 2 to 5 years. But I think eventually it pays off, and now it pays off really well in the hospitality. But one needs to have that kind of patience. And I always say, money it's good criteria in terms of the benchmarking, but that's not the real reason, eventually. Because पैसा will follow if you're enjoying it. पैसा आ जाएगा, हर industry में आ जाएगा. But if you're performing well, if you're enjoying it,
consistency is more important.
Very important, yeah, very important. क्योंकि पैसे का कोई satisfaction नहीं होता है. Like I remember उस time पे we used to earn in thousands. I would have friends who will be like, यार नहीं यार मजा नहीं आ रहा, बहुत कम पैसा है. Today there are my friends who are grown really well, and they're general managers of the hotels and all. They're earning in lakhs. Even then they're not satisfied. And I think that is a universal problem. तो वो money is never, मतलब हर बार ऐसा लगता है ना कि salary और ज़्यादा हो सकती है. I deserve more, which is great. So I think money is a good criteria, but not the only criteria. One needs to really enjoy what he is doing, be happy in what he is. If you're not, change it. Money will follow. Money आ जाएगा.
Your internship days, let's focus on those 3 years of IHM. Where did you do your internship?
Intercontinental Hotel, Barakamba Road, which is now the Lalit Hotel. Absolutely.
Okay, so it was only 4 major departments as well.
Correct.
All right.
I was very much inclined from day one in the F&B service, and I personally respect a lot of chefs, but I'm not a person who can be a chef or be in the kitchen.
No, I get
it. And it's a very open-ended statement, but shamelessly I'm saying I can't survive in the kitchen. So मेरे साथ अच्छी चीज़ ये हो गई थी होटल में that I did really well in the service, and I think the F&B director and the AF&Bs and all, they really loved me. So उनके साथ बात करके मेरा 1 महीने का पीरियड जो किचन का था वो 6 दिन का रह गया था, और बाकी जो टाइम था वो मैंने F&B सर्विस में इंक्रीज करा लिया था.
That happened with me during my internship, and I was totally dedicated towards front office.
Okay.
And my front office manager was so kind and generous to me that she already had sent a mail to the HR that all of his training has to be done at front office.
Perfect. If you're clear, I think that makes sense. Of course, the exposure is very important.
Right.
But I was pretty much clear कि मेरे को यार यही करना है, and I used to really love doing it, honestly. I remember वो briefings होती थी ना, तो they would be, particularly in banquets, you would be assigned कि ये वाला banquet आपका है, ये function prospective ये रहा आपका.
Exactly.
So as an industrial trainee, I used to get small banquet events by myself. तो मेरे को बड़ा मजा आता था कि असिस्टेंट मैनेजर को ये वाला बैंक्वेट मिला है, इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग को ये वाला बैंक्वेट मिला था. I was very happy and I used to get my staff, I used to handle everything. तो बड़ा मजा आता. I used to enjoy that. तो yeah, किचन का टाइम थोड़ा कम था. Front office I enjoyed, housekeeping of course, there's a good amount of learning. थोड़े से etiquettes आ जाते हैं आप में. बाकी तो F&B was interesting. I loved it.
Any anecdote of yours during internship that went wrong or that gave you a learning? Something that went.
A funny one that happened during that time, हमारा थोड़ा training department busy था. I think Mr. Douglas Peter used to be our training manager. तो I remember वो के जो training में मेरे को एक area मिल गया था 4 दिन के लिए. तो I remember वो banquet में of course दोस्ती यारी अच्छी थी. तो एक बारी मैंने drawer के अंदर कुछ 3-4 समोसे छुपाए थे. वो पकड़े गए थे. तो वो learning थी. बाकी तो I think it was good. Learnings are always a part of the game. I think one of the best learnings was that how to handle staff. Like we were discussing earlier as well. I was an industrial trainee. I was given employees who had experience of 20 years.
Oh.
तो उनसे काम करवाना in a very good faith and happy environment is very tough. And hospitality में, when the pressure comes,
ये तो मैनेजमेंट वर्ड होता है ना, मैनेजर अगर इसको हिंदी में डिकोड करें, इट्स लाइक काम करवाना.
बिल्कुल.
डू द वर्क.
मैनेजमेंट इज गेटिंग द वर्क डन. दैट्स ऑल.
एग्जैक्टली.
सो वो थोड़ा था, लगता है मेरे को कि इट वाज इंटरेस्टिंग. नथिंग राइट और रॉन्ग, बट वो सीखने को मिला कि मतलब आई वाज लिटरली अ बच्चा एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. एंड
the conversation feels like I'm in a training room and a manager is taking everything.
So I'm an industrial trainee and they know my stipend is probably in few hundreds per month. And I've got nothing, close to the kind of experience that they have. And I am the one who's supposed to be directing them what to do, when to do. And of course, you're learning a lot from them as well. Like today also, when I go back to, let's say, a Lalit or a Taj Mansingh where I've worked, I still meet those waiters first. Then I meet the managers because उन्होंने हमको सिखाया है ज़्यादा. So I think that is a great learning.
Very grateful to them.
So 100% we're grateful to them, and I think a lot of managers, fancy general managers are still grateful to, these on-ground staff who is actually the backbone of the industry.
That's where exact, situation, there were exact learning start.
Absolutely, 100%.
Apart from books, apart from those walls of those classes and
For sure.
those labs that we got in hotel management.
Because they have on-ground experience. They can see the, मजाक करते थे कई बारी, they can see the shoe of the person, of the guest, and tell you कि ये क्या खाएगा, क्या नहीं खाएगा, ये कितना spend करेगा.
That comes with experience.
That comes with experience. Yeah. That's not easy. That comes with it. And that's real hospitality. Beyond Excel sheets. That's the real, Indian hospitality. So yeah. So that was a great learning.
You entered into hotels professionally as a management trainee.
Yes. So I was fortunate enough. I got through the management training program of Taj Hotels. Went to IHM Aurangabad for a month and a half or so. Did those classroom training sessions, and then we were allocated hotels pan India.
And your hotel was?
I'll tell you, उसमें भी बड़ी interesting story है. So I got through Intercontinental Lalit Hotels because training अच्छी गई थी, so they gave me a management training का option, and I got through Taj as well with a couple of other options that I had. But these two were 2008-9.
All right.
So I got through all this. I went to IHM Aurangabad. जब allocation हुआ, so I still remember that the sheet that was shown on the projector. I was allocated Taj Kerala. It was a pre-opening property.
Okay.
अब pre-opening property मतलब fortunate होते हो आप कि आपको pre-opening property मिल गई पहले में अपने career में. So that was very good. But I was scared. I was a typical North Indian boy. So, like Kerala नहीं रहा जा सकता मेरे से. Like I thought a lot, and I still remember वो देखने के बाद I straight away ran to the computer lab वाला room. And I was like resignation type करो. I called Intercontinental कि sir अभी भी open है तो I can come back. And then I put in a request saying that I can't go to Kerala. I don't know why. Uss time I was like, there is no way I can work in Kerala. And then I gave my options. They told me what are the 3 preferences that you have, which was again quite funny. So the preferences I gave was Taj Mansingh Delhi, Taj Palace Delhi, and Taj Gurgaon, which again was patched on my face like ऐसे नहीं होता है. So give me something better. And then I requested them that I can get something wherever. But and the reason I chose Bombay eventually. Again, I was very fortunate कि Taj Mahal Bombay जैसा होटल मिला to start my career. But the reason I chose was उस time पे back of the mind कहीं पे वो theaters था. And a lot of my friends staying in Bombay, a lot of struggling actors whom I was in touch with. तो they got it, they like कि तो ले ले, off वाले दिन audition भी दे देंगे, कहीं यहाँ पे कुछ हो गया तो it is better, otherwise तेरा तो career चल ही रहा है. And that is exactly what happened. So I used to spend a lot of time in Yari Road. वहाँ पे सारे struggling actors रहते. So that's the reason I took Taj Mahal Bombay. So Taj Mahal Bombay management training is what I started my career with.
All right. So that was in the year 2008.
2008, yeah.
And it needs no introduction that what happened in the year 2008 when the country was in the dilemma of what was happening for about 3 days, close to exactly 3 days. And everyone who has a little understanding about so would vouch that the Palace Hotel, Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, the Oberoi Towers in Mumbai were being deeply attacked. And Ankur sir is one of the survivors of those attacks during his time in Mumbai. So a little bit upon that, sir. I know that you have been through this question enormously since 2008. But to guide a few steps to our generation, that hope is what is synonymous to hospitality if it comes from you.
Sure. Again, I can take a lot of time, but I'll quickly try to consolidate and narrow it down as much as I can. Well, of course, the experience was horrifying. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of friends, a lot of guests, a lot of people in the attack, and it was really an unfortunate situation. But yeah, I mean, two things that really came out and as a big learning and a surprise to me as well was that one, there were enough employees in the hotel, and all these employees knew the exit gates of the hotel, front, back, whatever.
Were they trained enough? Or
never trained for these kind of situations, honestly.
But then when they were familiar with the exits, so
yeah.
Just trying to
of course, आप देखो रोज जो एम्प्लॉइज जा रहे हैं वहाँ पे रोज वो अपने स्टाफ एंट्रेंस से एंटर कर रहे हैं. मेन एंट्रेंस आपको पता ही है. So my point was that उस टाइम पे I remember there was a point of time when we were taking people out, पूरा का पूरा ड्रिल चल रहा था, including the guest. I just thought, and I saw my F&B manager, Mr. Natu, he went outside to, with all the people to take them safely to a particular place. वहाँ से buses Taj Wellington में use लेके जा रही थी. But he also came back to take another match. So evacuations चल रहा था. And that's when, this thing came to the mind कि सब staff को exit पता है कहाँ से भाग सकते हैं. But I think that hospitality or that responsibility of putting your life in danger and making sure all the guests are, safely taken out of the hotel is a big shocker. जो अभी भी मेरे को नहीं समझ आता कि कैसे हुआ वो. मतलब otherwise, if you really look back at that situation, you will be like, यार आपको पता है ना कि कैसे बाहर निकलना है और होटल अटैक में तो भागो. Because it is not written in your KRA कि अगर ऐसा कुछ होगा तो आपको गेस्ट को बाहर लेके जाना है. It is not your responsibility. You are gone beyond that.
Unprecedented event.
Correct. So that was quite a surprise, and I think that was a real hospitality and a real responsibility that I really saw over there, and it still stays back with me. Second, I think a big learning out of that entire episode that came out, which is probably the reason how I now take my decisions or how I take my life forward also, is that you have one life, and it is all about that journey that you're going through. End of the life is death for everyone. That is pretty much clear. And when is that end? Nobody knows. वो अभी भी हो सकता है, कल भी हो सकता है, कुछ सालों बाद हो सकता है, 90 साल की उम्र में भी हो सकता है. So I think you have to just enjoy your life and be happy every day. And like we were discussing, it is beyond money. I mean, money is definitely a criteria, but I think we have put money as a much bigger criteria than what it is supposed to be. So enjoying that life, being happy, like I work very hard. I say that, and I love working very hard. I can work 14 hours, 18 hours a day, and I love that. But I have to be happy by the end of the day. Some of the happiest days for you or me in the life, or for most of us, जिस दिन आपने सबसे ज़्यादा काम किया होता है ना, उस दिन नींद अच्छी आती है. So I'm not saying
because you're satisfied to the
exactment
that you were.
Absolutely. So that is great. But I need to be happy. That's all. So and sometimes you feel that your decisions, small little decisions, you put a lot of time, effort in. यार ये कैसे होगा, वो कैसे होगा, टेंशन हो जाती है, छोटे से बड़ी पॉइंट आ जाता तो. But I think that's when you should look at the longer picture. यार बहुत बड़ी जिंदगी है, एक छोटा मोटा ऊपर नीचे कुछ हो गया, no problems.
यहीं पे मैं आपसे एक बात जानना चाहता था. You started professionally there,
sure,
right? Some black swan event like this happened,
sure.
उसके बाद भी you stayed in the industry,
yeah,
right? वो जो आपकी एक hope थी, वो जो एक dedication थी, how did you build that up?
I think
आज
yeah.
कुछ भी होगा because we are so sensitive.
Sure.
Talking about myself also, I'm not apart from this generation. किसी मैनेजर ने डांट दिया,
Sure.
स्टाइपेंड टाइम पे नहीं मिला, सैलरी का हो गई because of your mistake or something, छोड़ दिया. Just a lot of time when you leave the industry right away.
Correct.
You after, I suppose I can use the word the rebirth.
Sure.
Of your life.
Absolutely.
Being back in 2000. Sure. Those are places that I know how tough it is. How did you dedicate yourself to stay in the industry? ये जानना चाहता हूँ.
As I said, it is all about your love and passion. I love this industry. I'm going to stay in this industry. And I think the industry is beautiful. Every industry has the pros and cons. Now it depends on what do you love and where do you enjoy the most. And I think, again, one of the strongest thing of coming back and hitting back was the strength by the Tatas as well, as a group. This happened in 26/11, right? 21st of December, the hotel reopened. Under a month, the hotel reopened with a big bang. And I still remember there was this entire, walkway that was created for all the employees. And I think when we were walking over there, there were, I don't know, some hundreds and thousands of guests who were in the lobby, Mr. Ratan Tata himself, the entire management. And it was a different atmosphere altogether. As if you are telling the world that, we cannot go down. तुम एक बार करो, हम 10 बारी और आगे आएंगे. And I think that is where the strength comes from.
That's what define what India is.
That is what India is all about, 100%. And that is what who we all are, yeah. Why not? So I think, coming back bigger and stronger is what, sort of was the entire message. And there is this beautiful line, it says that if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And I think that is what happened. So people who came out alive, they are much more stronger is what I feel today. And you can take bigger decisions. Like, I mean, I wanted to always do something of my own. But the decision became easier. I'm like, ठीक है यार, करते हैं ना. It doesn't matter. हो गया तो बहुत बढ़िया, नहीं हुआ तो I come back to the job. But as a decision in this, let's say span of your life, it is a very crucial decision because it defines your life. But now I take decisions like that. ठीक है यार, हो गया, let's try. नहीं हुआ तो it's okay, no problems. So it makes you stronger to take those decisions, and I think that is how it should be.
This was your goal to the event that happened, and so that gave birth to this film which we have, this beautiful book today with us.
Sure.
40 hours, an insider's account of 26/11 Taj attack by author Ankur Chawla. So we have this book with us. It's very informative, and I'm very fortunate receiving this book from the author itself.
Pleasure.
This was your perspective.
Sure.
You absorbed it. How was it for your family?
Well, of course, it was very difficult. At that point of time, I remember जब हम देखो starting में तो हमें भी नहीं पता था कि it is such a big terror attack, right? Starting में there were rumors because nobody expect like आप और मैं exactly आप और मैं भी बात कर रहे हैं बाहर अगर एक आवाज आए तो starting में तो आपको पता भी नहीं लगेगा exactly right. So initially we didn't know what's happening. उस time I remember we were all lying to the family saying that कि tension वाली कोई बात नहीं है. TV में थोड़ा ज़्यादा exaggerate करके दिखाया जा रहा है, but we are all safe over here. There is security and stuff, which was also true. We were all together.
Family, including me, I still remember I was 8th standard when this all attacks were happening, and मतलब एक न्यूज़ चैनल से दूसरे न्यूज़ चैनल पे भी मतलब ये लगता था कि बस something should come out very positive. Something should come out very positive.
No, I know. People were clued completely. So initially हम families को बोल रहे थे कि we are taken care of, we are with the security around us, so don't worry at all, because I think that is very important. I feel the person in the situation is not as bad, but the person who loves you looking at this obviously is very scary. So starting में हमने उनको ये बोला, and of course as I said things started developing. Obviously there was no point of time when I told them that it's a sad situation or whatever, but there were one or two times when we felt कि शायद कल सुबह ना निकल पाए, to be very honest. And I think that is where the life comes to you, in a flashback, if I may. And that's when you feel that your life is much bigger in terms of the purpose that you're here for than these small issues. Second, you also feel कि आप दोस्त यार बहुत सारे हैं आपके दुनिया में, बहुत सारे लोग आपको जानते हैं या आप उनको जानते हो, but I think it's the family, which stays with you. So I think that importance of family suddenly increases, particularly when you are a kid right out of college, you want to fly high. But I think you get around it.
Experiences always makes you feel valued to the family.
Absolutely. So I think that is what happened. But yeah, family initially took it very nicely, very strongly. But eventually they said, "Ki bhai, my dad is a business guy, and he was like, छोड़ दो सब, आ जाओ वापस, no problems, we'll कुछ ना कुछ कहीं ना कहीं हो जाएगा."
Business fathers.
Exactly. So I think family was very, very supportive. I cannot deny that. But yeah, eventually I took an internal transfer, and I think, as I said, Taj was very helpful, and very supportive in that fact as well. Normally इतनी जल्दी transfers और particularly दिल्ली मानसिक में नहीं होते थे, but they were very kind enough for assisting me with the entire internal transfer and all.
So you came to Taj Mansingh, which is now New Delhi.
Absolutely. This happened in November. I went back, the reopening of the hotel, did a few, couple of months over there again, and started the process and everything. And I think March beginning next year, I came back to Delhi. So then I joined Taj Mansingh.
All right. So being in the industry, in the F&B service, so your inclination towards wine is something that people know very well. Because you are a wine sommelier, WSET level 3.
Correct.
ये भी इंडियन इंट्रोडक्शन है, because he's a wine sommelier, WSET level 3. Our nation has very less number of people, those who are this level achiever, right? So he deserves to be applauded for this. And wines, spirits, alcohol around us, but that too very responsibly.
Of course.
So आज इनके ना ये जो लोग देख रहे हैं, ये हमारी उम्र के हैं, ये जो भ्रम है कि ड्रिंक है, ड्रिंकिंग कल्चर है, सोशलाइजेशन का पार्ट है, आई वांट जस्ट टू कम आउट फ्रॉम यू
Sure.
कि व्हाट इज वाइन सोमिलियरिंग, व्हाट इज द स्टडीज ऑफ वाइन. बिकॉज़ लोगों को लगता है ना यार होटल्स में है ग्लैमरस लाइफस्टाइल, लाइक मतलब फर्स्ट ईयर के पहले दिन होते हैं,
Sure.
व्हाई आर यू हियर इन दिस इंस्टीट्यूट, सर ग्लैमरस लाइफस्टाइल, लग्जरियस लाइफस्टाइल, व्हाट गोes into building that luxury?
Okay, I'll tell you an interesting thing.
Of course.
So my schoolmates or my batchmates, we keep meeting or we keep chit-chatting. So they still hate me because उनका simple है कि तेरे को तो liquor पीने के भी पैसे मिलते हैं. Like that is when we spend most of the money. But I know it is very glamorous from the outside. But it is a lot of hard work as well, यार. तो honestly ऐसा नहीं है कि it is, in fact जब मैं level 3 कर रहा था या जब हम पढ़ाई कर रहे थे वाइन्स के बारे में, तो कई बार ऐसे लगता था इससे अच्छा तो MBA कर लेते हैं, because there is a lot of study and detail is too much.
We want that to
Sure.
come out.
So I'll tell you, I was fortunate enough to work at a restaurant called Wasabi by Morimoto.
Okay.
It was Delhi वाला, बॉम्बे में भी है, ताजमहल बॉम्बे में. It is one of the best restaurants across the globe. Top 50, top 100 की lists में, और ये वो काफी आ गया था. तो I was very fortunate enough. Another mentor for my life, Mr. Akshay Tripathi, who's with Taj right now. He was the one who got me over there. I think management trainees were not really allowed over there. So I'm very kind, I'm very honored that he allowed me over there. But he was a tough master. तो वहाँ पे जब हम गए तो of course we were selling very fancy wines. There is a wine called Chateau Petrus. So I remember it was at 2,75,000 rupees plus taxes per bottle of wine, which is only 5 glasses.
And it was back in
2011, 10, 11, 12.
Okay, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Now I'm feeling old. So उस टाइम पे हमें बड़ी वाइन्स वगैरह बहुत बेचते थे.
You are aging like a fine wine.
I wish. So उस टाइम में बहुत बेचते थे. तो I remember Mr. Avnash was the F&B director. He pushed me for it. लेकिन वाइन सोमिलियर का कंपटीशन हो रहा है, उसमें you should participate. Like सर मेरे को ज़्यादा नहीं पता है वाइन के बारे में, मैं बेच देता हूँ. तो कंपटीशन में finally he pushed me for it. And when I was going in, I realized the technical side for me was not very strong, very honestly. But उस टाइम पे वो थिएटर बड़ा काम आया. तो जब वाइन सोमिलियर होता है, वो वैसे वाइन उठाएगा, swirl the glass very nicely, sniff it, taste it, and say as if something really has worked out wonders. मेरे को बड़ा अच्छा लगता था.
I am also going back into my wine classes.
Correct. तो मेरे को बड़ा अच्छा लगता था. तो मेरे थिएटर वाले दिन याद आए मेरे को. तो I remember competition से पहले I was in front of the mirror doing all of this jingman, dressed up and all. तो जितना सीख सकता था सीखा और करा, and fortunately I was one of the winners in the competition, and that is when the motivation came कि यार you're not as bad. And I think उसके बाद फिर level 2 किया, फिर level 3 किया, and again Taj was very supportive, F&B managers were very supportive, otherwise नहीं हो पाता. वो किया, and level 3 करने, मतलब level 3 was tough to be very honest. This was back in 2011-12 again. Us time I think we were the first batch in India to do level 3. That wasn't tough. I think we tasted about almost 200 wines in the span of 5 days. And again, it sounds very fancy, but it is not. But when you're tasting, you're spitting, you're writing notes, by the second half of the day, you have tasted a lot of wines.
And that stays in your
कहीं ना कहीं सलाइवा में रह जाता है, कहीं ना कहीं अवॉइड करता है. आप सोचो एक साइड से आप वाइन पी रहे हो और एक साइड आपको पूरा कंसंट्रेशन करना है टू राइट डाउन what year do you think the wine is, what grape do you think is the wine. It's all blind tasting. What is the region, what kind of soil is the wine coming from, what is the kind of price point that you're looking at, what is the terroir, like you mentioned about the entire thing. So, and you have to remember all of that in the back end. So ऐसा नहीं है कि it sounds very fancy, but it is tough also. I remember there was this question, in my Viva during the level 3 when, this invigilator was there. He was like, compare the soil culture of New Zealand, where the Sauvignon Blanc is developed, versus the old world France, where the Loire Valley, where the Sauvignon Blanc is developed. So I had to compare two different soils of two different regions of the world where I've never been. So remembering all of that is a tough task. So if you're trying to get into wines, great. I mean, I think the future is outstanding. But there is a lot of study. You're talking about spirits. Again, we discussed the other day, we were doing blind wine whiskey tasting. In one of the awards, I was a jury, so we were supposed to do blind whiskey tasting, and I just casually asked, "ठीक है, 5, 7, 8, 10 whiskeys we will be tasting." But when I reached over there, the entries were 42. So now you're tasting 42 different whiskeys. End of the day, bani वही है, base वही है. Of course, the process is pretty much the same. When you're tasting 42 different whiskeys, you have to write down every single thing about it. And when you're a jury, I know again sounds very fancy. Oh wow, you're a jury in a whiskey tasting. But you have a lot of responsibility.
Of course.
And you can't just say, okay, this is good, this is bad. Somebody has given a lot of heart, soul, hard work, making this whiskey. We really feel, or I personally really feel, these liquids are living organisms, which are like babies of these wine makers and master blenders. So, I know हम बड़े आराम से reject कर देते हैं, यार ये whiskey अच्छी है, बेकार है, तो बनी नहीं. सोचो कितना effort, कितना time, कितना, emotion है उस whiskey के पीछे. So tasting, blind tasting is fun always, but there is a lot of serious stuff as well. That's what I feel.
So the beverage knowledge is very important, you're saying.
Absolutely. So one is the theoretical knowledge, which I feel is important, but I think one is the practical knowledge, which is even more important. So I know, between we were discussing, like a lot of hotels have now started keeping, beverage managers or sommeliers of the hotels. Now, whenever I meet these guys, or F&B guys also for that matter, the first question, is from my side, if somebody says I'm interested in wines, it's like, how many times are you tasting wine yourself? Not drinking. How many times are you tasting wine yourself? What kind of exposure your palate has to the wines that you have, kind of tasted? Have you tasted the shittiest possible wines? Or a wine that has gone bad, because then you need to know. And have you tasted the most expensive wines as well? Now, that is a spectrum that you need to taste. And that is very important. How many wine regions have you traveled?
Exactly.
Again, my salary was...
You need to grow in that patient of, of your interest.
I feel you need to invest in yourself, which I think is missing a lot right now also. I really tell these new kids कि भैया आपकी salary जितनी मर्जी हो, travel, go stay in hostels, I don't care. Eat in McDonald's or local dhabas, I don't care. But your exposure is something which opens your eyes. It's like college versus hotel. When you reach there, it opens your eyes and tells you the truth. Same is the case with wines or spirits also. When you taste a wine or read about it, versus when you go to a winery, talk to the winemaker, talk to the the brewery owner.
Stay there in that life.
When you make that wine, it's a different level of exposure.
Grapes.
Exactly. So it's a different level of exposure. So I think one needs to really invest in traveling, and practical knowledge is more important than the theoretical WSET level 3s of the world.
Oh, why aren't we seeing such events that happens now in India? Of maybe anything, hospitality expos are there, wine sessions are there, cross exposures of shorties are there. Why aren't they at the greatest level as compared to other competitions?
You mean in India, right?
Right.
Well, again, fortunate enough, I've always got opportunities. Like, I tell these guys also, there are enough and more opportunities for you to travel only for these expos around the world. There are enough and more times I've got sponsored tickets for these events. It's just that you have to push for it. One. So your exposure globally has to be very well. That is most important. Second, talking about India particularly, I think now is the time when things are happening. So there are big events also coming and targeting India, or eyeing for India, because India is growing in a big way. And like you mentioned, the taboo of drinking or liquor is going off slowly and steadily, and the wine bottles are coming on the dinner tables, which is very important. People have started talking or discussing about different flavors of whiskeys or different kind of wines, and going and experiencing in the retail shops, which is very important, which was not the case, let's say, a generation or two prior.
Exactly.
So that is good. Win Expo has started happening in India. Again, at a smaller scale, nowhere.
We had that.
Correct. Nowhere compared to the big ones, but yeah, it was there. We were very much involved in doing some, assisting in B2B meetings with European Union coming to India, doing meetings with importers, distributors and stuff. Pro Wine again has grown really well in India. I think it happens recently again happened in Mumbai in the Geo World Center at a decently good scale. Another big thing that I really see happening in India is people have started paying to regional or local brands because of the quality of liquor or the quality of the liquid compared to the big brands as well. So let's say 10 years ago, if I tell them that, let's say there is a Scotch whiskey, which is a big brand, versus an Indian whiskey, which is as good or maybe better at the same price, आंखें बंद करके people will go to the commercial brand.
Exactly.
कि भैया मेरे को black label चाहिए, मेरे को Shiva Sprinkle चाहिए, that is supposed to be in my bar because that's how I show off, which is nothing wrong. And till date, we work very closely with Pernod Ricard and we work very closely with Diageo as well. So nothing wrong, great. But these smaller brands, boutique brands have started taking over as well, which is where you feel now it is a level playing field. तो and ऐसा नहीं है कि ये सिर्फ individual companies या छोटी companies कर रही हैं, ये the big companies are doing that, which is a great exposure. So let's say a Godawan from a Diageo is a great exposure to a boutique brand, right? Indian single malts, Paul John, Indri, Amrut, they have taken over the world, yeah. So I think it's great. Look at the...
It's gaining its fame now.
No doubts. And people are respecting that and ready to pay more. The other day I was at one of the wine shops, in Gurgaon, fancy ones, of course. There was a guy who left a commercial brand of gin and picked up an Indian local brand, a little more expensive than the commercial brand. But that's when you feel here people are ready to, go for the liquid and get more exposure to the local brands.
I have gained that understanding that what's better.
Absolutely.
Now their palates are being now
100%.
I would use
100%. So it's a great momentum, and I think again, hospitality, you get a lot of chances to to shift your base abroad or move abroad, which used to be very fancy. But I am very happy in India. I don't want to leave India. I want to travel the world, but I don't want to leave India because this is the start of something big in India. And I think globally people have realized that.
Overall platform, I want to very gracefully deliver my thanks because people like him in the industry are bringing the world to the India. That is what we are grateful so that India also grows at the global level. So what makes wine, a quality one or expensive one? Because the price point is very expensive. So when we normal are expensive wine.
Sure.
An expensive wine has to be the one which is abroad.
Correct. Correct. Very interesting. Very genuine question. So we do a lot of sessions with corporates, or people who want to learn about wines. And I always say it is, the session is more towards edutainment more than anything else, because there is an education, but there has to be entertainment as well.
All right. So this is edutainment.
Edutainment is what I see.
Your word is there. So we
absolutely
edutainment.
Yeah. So I always say a line here which I stick by. The wine, let's say the expensive wine, tastes better when you know it's an expensive wine.
Okay.
अगर मेरे को पता है कि ये वाइन एवरेज है तो मैं टेस्ट करूंगा एवरेज है, नो प्रॉब्लम. बट मेरे को पता है कि 2 लाख की बोतल है, तो आई कैन गिव यू इन राइटिंग 95% of the people will say हाँ यार ये वाली ज़्यादा अच्छी है. So that is the reason I always prefer blind tastings. What happens in blind tasting is that wine is naked. It is only liquid on the glass. Yeah. You might like it, you might not like it.
Not that fancy packaging of bottle.
Exactly. So, and no perceptions, right? कि ये old world है, फ्रांस की है, इटली की है तो अच्छी होगी, ये यूएस की है या इंडिया की है तो मे भी इतनी अच्छी नहीं होगी. And I kudos to Indian wines as well in that case, or the New World wines. I remember Taj, I used to do this blind tastings with guests also. एक कैलिफोर्नियन, एक बोर्डो, और लेट्स से एक आपने ऑस्ट्रेलिया या न्यू वर्ल्ड की रख दी, एंड बीच में I used to in fact play a lot with Fratelli Sette.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll take the names blindly so that there is no, let's say, wrapped around it. तो Fratelli Sette में रखता था बीच में बहुत बारी, and I remember late Mr. Sekri, God bless his soul, he was outstanding what he did to the industry. So I used to put a Sette as well. A lot of times people would be surprised. Indian wine is better than Indian wine would get, let's say 9 on 10, and other wines will be 7 on 10, 6 on 10 and stuff. So don't put your preconceived notions कि ये महंगी है तो अच्छी होगी, या ये old world से है, France Italy से तो अच्छी होगी. I always say taste the wine, see how it is, and what do you like in that particular wine, and what is the kind of style that you prefer. That is where I think wine should be. Also, I'll give you another interesting phrase which kind of defines, which is like the pillars of the wine, which I also use a lot, in the corporates or the tasting sessions when I do it. Always remember the word great, GREAT. Those are the 5 factors for the wine. G means grape. What is the grape that is getting used, which defines the wine, which is essentially the core. R means region. Which part of the world is it coming from? So that defines a lot in the wine. Is it an old world, new world? Of course, it matters a lot. E means emotion. Emotion, daru mein, or a lot of other things. The stories are always the ones which are selling. So yeah. So for example, I'll tell you. I was with my wife and I said, let's have a Miraval rosé. So like, nahi yaar, koi aur dekhte hain. It is expensive. I don't know this and that. Then I told her that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie together bought this vineyard and they have this wine called Miraval. अभी वो divorce चल रहा है, तो maybe we want to have this wine only because it's practical.
Stories are connected.
Stories are most important. It is emotions, and that sells. So for example, I tell you this particular wine is, let's say 50,000 rupees. What is the year of your birth?
95.
And then I say this is another wine, same this thing, but this is 1995 vintage. Now again the emotion came. You will be happy to pay an extra buck for this particular wine. Connect stories. It sells a lot, and I think that is what the world or the entire liquor industry is all about.
I feel entire hospitality industry all about
it is.
Connect. Because people are loyal to practice because they connect better.
Correct.
People are loyal to food because they connect better with their restaurants, any food.
Absolutely. So stories sell a lot. So emotion, I think, sells a lot for that matter. So G, grape, R, region, E, emotion. A is basically the age, like you just mentioned. I clearly say that most of the wines in the world, or even whiskeys a lot of times, are drunk young. ऐसा नहीं है कि पुरानी है तो अच्छी होगी. Everything doesn't age well, to be very honest. It depends on the potential of the wine. Every wine has got, let's say, a graph. कि एक टाइम पे जाके it will peak. उस टाइम पे आप पियोगे तो that's the best. उसके आसपास पियोगे तो even better. But after that it starts declining. So new world wine है, Pinot Grigio or a light grape है. It doesn't need to age. वो vinegar बनेगा after a point of time. So it's best that you understand what wine is it, what is the right time to drink, and that is when you should drink. And that's when the fun is. मतलब जैसे अगर मेरे को कोक पीनी है, डाइट कोक पीनी है, गरम डाइट कोक नहीं अच्छी लगेगी, मेरे को ठंडी करके पीनी है. That's when you enjoy the most. So I think that is what happens. So everything is not. So you have to understand the age as well. And the last T stands for terroir. Terroir is a technical term, like you would know, which basically means everything and anything around that microclimate.
Exactly.
अब अगर एक पहाड़ के इस साइड पे सन ज्यादा आता है और इस साइड पे सन कम आता है, that will make a difference. एक vineyard is right next to the river. और एक vineyard is middle of nowhere in a valley. That will make a lot of difference. So yeah, so GREAT is what defines the wine. When you're picking up a bottle of wine, just remember these things and you'll be able to pick up a good wine.
All right. Now, I've introduced you as an entrepreneur as well. So I'm having this shorter since our conversation began.
Absolutely. Shameless marketing.
Not shameless marketing, I would say, but in your talks, I believe that there was a word that came repeatedly, responsible.
Correct.
That evoked you to creating responsible water. I was a water.
Water.
Am I pronouncing right?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what happened with this was, what is the story of this is I was heading beverages with the Marriott Group as the director of beverages, and I was representing India in APAC. And I was based in JW Marriott, Aero City. Now, at that point of time, everybody wanted to get out of plastic, which is even the case now. And I'm very happy that sustainability has come out of the presentations of PPTs or the the boardrooms to the reality on ground. Now, to get out of plastic, what do? You get into glass. That's the only option, or rather, that was the only option available. I wanted to get out of plastic completely in the hotel, but there were 3 challenges with it. One, the cost of glass was very high. Yeah. So, not very easy for volume-driven areas कि मैं 10 rupees का bottle को suddenly 70 rupees लेके जाऊँ. And the consumption is huge in hotels. So even like उस time पे I remember Marriott AeroCity itself would use anywhere between 16 to 17 lakh bottles in a year. So now multiply that with 30-40%, or maybe 100% hike. It was just not possible. That's one. Second was that it was not very functional. So Indian weddings, banqueting is huge. The rooms in the hotel, it's about 520 rooms, 523 to be precise. That's big. It's not functional, with the glass.
Storage,
handling. Even if all of that is done, kahan fekoge itna bottles? That's second. Third, why are you removing plastic as a fundamental question is because you want to go towards sustainability. Is the glass getting reused or recycled 100%?
No.
The carbon emissions when you're producing glass. Now, I'm not against glass or that sort, but the numbers are big. Like in spirit industry, of course, glass is the big backbone. But these are factors were supposed to be considered. And पानी का क्या है ना यार, ऐसे उठाया पिया खत्म out. So you can't just use glass as much, and it was not. And we went to a detailed exercise कि मेरे को अगर महाराष्ट्र से खाली बॉटल्स मंगवा के सोलन में डालना है और फिर सोलन से again it has to go. The transportation is huge. Petrol use कर रहे हो आप. You're using fossil fuels. Putting in a refrigerator behind the bar, the amount of energy that it's consuming, the time it's taking to get chilled, again, you're consuming energy. So it's end to end. And that's when, this question was always there. Now, cut to 2018-19 initial, I went to Solon to meet now my partner Brigu, who was into agriculture. He was back from the States. He was into agriculture. We were trying to get into, exotic mushrooms and stuff like that. And then we saw this beautiful natural spring source of water. And I was like, what are you using it for? And I would love to kind of get it tested or tasted. So I remember उसके पास ना वो Milton का jar होता था. So he just picked a few, उसने ऐसे पानी निकाला and बोला ये तो taste करो. I'm like, you can't taste it like that, right? It's just free flowing in the open air. It might not be as good. It's like, no, we were drinking it from like 25-30 years nearby areas and they're using it for agriculture as well. And then we got it tested. And the quality came out really good. Like it was somewhere between, let's say, a Himalayan and an EVO in terms of, the pH value, TDS, and the commercial and the technical bits of, the calcium, magnesium, and the mineral composition. So that was an eye opener. And then one thing led to the other, and we thought we did a bit of R&D around it. And then we thought, why not put water in a can? Because there were 2-3 companies globally who had started this. So this was a big move, or a let's say a courageous decision that was supposed to be taken. कि चलेगा कि नहीं चलेगा. And then I still remember I bought a few beer cans, basic beer cans उठाए थे. उसके ऊपर ऐसे ही एक sticker types लगाया. And I went to a few hotels to my friends in the F&B space or purchase managers और ऐसे टेबल पे रख दिया, approximate costing बना दिया कि यार देखो ज्ञान मत देना कि अच्छा है या बुरा है. तुम बताओ इस प्राइस पॉइंट पे मिलेगा तो खरीदोगे हाँ या ना. Because I was very practical कि भैया ये धंधा है तो धंधा चलना चाहिए. It's as simple. वो passion सब उड़ जाता है if the business is not running, if the numbers are not coming. So let's say 6-7 out of 10 were like very positive. Wow, very interesting idea and this and that. 1 or 2 were, this is the worst idea possible. Please don't even try. Come back to the industry, get a good job. You will get it. And that's what happened.
So that was starting out that entrepreneurial yourself.
Absolutely. So then I got the confidence like, karte hain yaar. It will be interesting. And that's when we can make a difference as well. And then we went to Ball Beverage Corporation, who's, the can production guys for us as well. And they were big in sustainability. So initially I remember किसी को भी हमने नहीं बताया था. Now, an issue or big challenge was that normally you see cans with carbonated beverages. जिसकी वजह से वो can में freshness भी रहती है और strength आती है. Like this is an open can, right? This is very flimsy. Yeah, but this is a closed can. So if you see, there is a lot of strength from inside. Because this is non-carbonated. And non-carbonation India में नहीं हो रही है can. बहुत कम है, rarely. So I remember initially हमने सबको बोला था कि हम आइस टी कर रहे हैं क्योंकि पानी बोलते ही कैन में पानी कुछ समझ नहीं आता किसी को. तो In fact, the manufacturers of the can also, उनको 15 या 20 दिन पहले जब हमने बताया, they were like, oh wow, is this what you're trying to do? And I remember उस टाइम पे Mr. अमित होते थे बॉल बेवरेज के MD, तो उनके साथ बहुत they were very supportive. And then they said, yeah, let's do it and all. Finally, we got the cans. These cans are made with about 76% recycled aluminum.
All right.
And the idea was that we would collect back the cans and give it to the manufacturers as well for the entire circle. So that's how it started. And now we were ready with the first batch in January 2020. We have put up a small plant in Solan in Himachal, right at the source, sustainability completely. Like the ACB say, it was very much responsible. It is very much responsible. All employees locally hired, trained. Even there are a couple of girls who are working over there. The manager of the plant is completely local, so koi fancy nahi. And sustainably done, yeah. And responsibly done, if I may. And 2020 we were ready in January, and then March happened. And then we were like, oh shit, now what do we do? Finally, हमने जून में launch किया पानी, and I think industry was very supportive. So I still remember initially I used to call my friends like, भाई नौकरी है, because this time a lot of people were losing out their jobs. So like, हाँ है अभी तक तो. So I'm like, ठीक है फिर पानी लगा दो. And I think it's because of the relations. I think it was a lot of positive notes. And then people realized, yeah, there's a big pain point. As I said, it was my pain point, and I could relate with people. Of course, it is a little more expensive than plastic, but much cheaper than glass. And then we got a couple of good feathers in the cap. Like we got shortlisted by the government of India for showcasing it in Expo Dubai 2020, which was big for us. Apple के दोनों store launch हुए India में. We sold the water to them. A couple of good Bollywood, engagements. So Ali Faisal's ki wedding pe we got used. Marriott mein Shaadi by Marriott in Bombay, where Tiger Shroff, Karan Johar, and all these guys were there. We were there. And recently, I think the big one for us was thanks to ITC Hotels. We were the partners with we were rather present at the G20 summit as well for India. So that was big for us. So yeah, so can't complain. I think God's been very kind. And these are both still water. Very soon, hopefully, we'll be launching sparkling water as well. So that can't complain. God's been kind. Maza aa raha hai. Enjoying the journey. It's been tough. It's been a lot of hard work, but yeah, enjoying the journey.
So if we focus upon your personal life now, that's lots of being professional, being so many roles, I believe, and now if you go a very personal life, so what does any habit of yours, any activity of yours inclines you to get out of these going here and there, very busy and nasty schedules that you have?
Well, I think जब आप होटल में होते हैं या जब आप नौकरी कर रहे होते हो,
every day is a celebration.
So every day, I mean, नौकरी में क्या होता है ना, when you're working in a job, and I think our off day is a proper off day. अब मैं off हूँ तो पीछे आग लग जाए, I don't care. That's what it is, right? But I think when you're working for yourself, you start enjoying the journey. So I think the weekdays and weekends are very blurred. So Aman Gupta ne, I think एक बार किसी में तो बोला था, I heard it. When your Sundays are like your Mondays and your Mondays are like your Sundays, then I think it's a different life. So while I enjoy the journey, I still love meeting people, enjoying it. So I think the clear line between work and personal life is very blurred right now, to be very honest. And I am enjoying it. There is no complaint around it. But yeah, I keep taking on and off breaks. I keep completely switching myself off as well, which I think is needed. The reason or let's say अभी मैं अपने हिसाब से अपने तरीके से वो कर सकता हूँ, that is much more satisfying to me.
That freedom has to attain, मतलब वो freedom आपके पास अभी after having achieved so much. तो उसके
I haven't achieved too much, to be very honest.
No, but then it is your benchmark that
Yeah. People are
in many roles that you have been into.
Sure.
It is a testament that we have you with us.
Sure. So चलता रहता है यार वो, मतलब on and off. I take breaks. I love watching movies. I love watching documentaries. I'm not very big in reading books, but I would love to do that one day. I love traveling myself, and I think my family is such. So my wife is somebody who we were like childhood friends. So अभी भी कई बारी लगता नहीं है कि हमारी शादी हुई है, so we still keep enjoying it that way. So yeah, on and off, you keep taking small breaks or like off times for that matter to rejuvenate yourself. So I think that keeps me alive. That keeps me happy.
So that spirit of yours, I believe that every hospitality professional who has been so successful in their respective, 4 days, I must use that word because everybody has their own inclination of interest, I believe. And so this has been a life of every hotelier, I suppose. And I've been very fortunate today that having spent very little amount of time in the industry professionally, I have gained so much of exposure because of my assignments with Taj, my assignments with Marriott, which connected me with which connected both of us. So, a very wonderful conversation that took place, and you were on our guest list for so long.
Sorry for delaying.
All that, but then every pleasure has a price. I can put it that way.
Very kind of.
We are very grateful for your presence on our hospitality couch. So, thank you, and very grateful.
Thank you very much for having me, and it was a pleasure chit-chatting with you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, super.